Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Welcome back to Fallout 3, where today we're going to be taking a look at 5 weapons in this video. We're going to be taking a look at all of the thrown weapons in Fallout 3, because there's not very many of them. There's only 5. There's 5 thrown and 5 placed explosives, so let's talk about these ones. The very first one we're going to talk about is the Frag Grenade, because this one is probably going to be the most common explosive that you find. This one can be found all throughout the Wasteland. A bunch of different people can carry this. Raiders and super mutants carry them pretty often, as well as you can find them in boxes pretty easily. Merchants tend to sell a lot of them too, so you do have a big variety of places that you can actually pick up frag grenades, and this is more than likely going to be your go-to for an explosives build, at least towards the early and mid game, until you start getting more explosives for like your missile launcher or something like that. Explosives build in Fallout 3 can be a little bit awkward since there's just not a whole lot of them overall. For the stats of the frag grenade, this one does 1 damage on direct hit, just like pretty much all the thrown weapons do throughout all the Fallout games. And this one does 100 explosive damage when it actually does go off. That's pretty good damage. This one does 66 damage per second. How they determine damage per second in this game, I have no idea. It's the same way that it was in like New Vegas. So depending on how many enemies you hit, you might get a whole lot more DPS out of this. Or if you hit just one enemy, you're going to get whatever damage you got on that enemy. So DPS can range heavily. Just like in New Vegas, all the explosives here don't have any crit damage and don't have any crit chance. So even if you manage to sneak hit with these, you won't be doing any additional damage. So building for luck is really not that great. Building for crit chance is really not that great in this game. This one, as well as all the thrown explosives, cost 24 action points to use. The explosives and VATS are a little bit iffy because VATS is a little bit iffy with them, and you might throw them a lot closer to yourself than you think, and that can cause issues, as you would imagine. And the frags, as well as all the other thrown explosives and the placed explosives, only weigh half a weight. So they're not too heavy, which is nice. You can carry around a decent amount of them. However, if you are carrying around a lot, it will add up pretty quickly. For the general pros of the frags, as well as a lot of the other explosives we're going to talk about here, they have good damage and they have good damage per second, as well as they do give you pretty good AoE because you can hit multiple enemies with these, which is awesome. You don't have any way of increasing your AoE in this one like you did in New Vegas where you have splash damage. So you're just kind of stuck with what you have. And that's okay, you're just going to have to get used to that, but at least it is pretty consistent. And the major cons to these are that, well, they might be a little bit expensive if you want to be buying these, as well as they are going to be heavy if you're carrying around a lot of them. That's only a problem if you are carrying around a lot of them, though. If you're only carrying around a handful, that's not going to be such a big deal, and these are actually really good weapons if you want to be just picking them up to sell them, because they do sell for a lot. You can carry quite a lot of them on your person. There's also one perk that we should talk about with this too, and that is Demo Expert. For each rank of Demo Expert, you get 20% more damage, and this stacks so you can go up to 60% damage. You can get this 3 times, and that does help out a lot. You can also get this very early on. This is a level 6 perk, so if you want to, you can max this out as early as level 8, which is really strong, similar to like how we talked about Iron Fist the other day when we were going over the Brass Knuckles and the Steel Knuckles. This does help out the explosives quite a bit. Explosives already have pretty high base damage, at least for the most part, so upping their damage by huge increments by 20% is really good. The only downside to that is the natural cons that come with explosive weapons of you potentially blowing yourself up easier with this. These can also deal limb damage if they don't blow yourself up, so if you don't die, you're more than likely going to be breaking things. That is more of an issue in New Vegas, where if you're playing on the hardcore difficulty, you have to have somebody or a doctor's bag to actually fix you up, and that's going to just be more resources. In Fallout 3, you don't have that problem because there is no survival difficulty, at least in the normal game. If you're playing modded, then that's different. For an overall rating for the frag grenades, I'd put these ones up into A tier. They're very solid. They're pretty much going to be your go-to explosive for quite a while, and they're never going to be a bad option for an explosive build. Even for a non-explosive build, they're still going to be pretty decent overall. Let's move on to the other explosives now. First up, we're going to talk about the plasma grenades, which are generally just an upgrade over regular frag grenades. So these ones deal 1 damage on direct hit and then deal 150 explosive damage. This is also plasma damage, so it can turn enemies into the goo piles, which can be kind of nice. It might make it a little bit easier to spot those if you're trying to loot stuff. This one has 99 damage per second, 0 for crit chance, 0 for crit damage, costs 24 action points, and weighs half a weight. It's functionally just an upgrade over the frag grenades. These are a lot more rare, but you can find quite a lot of them, especially from the Enclave. They tend to carry around quite a bit. So into the later game, these can be pretty nice. So I'd put these ones up into A tier as well. Main reason why I wouldn't put them up into S tier is just because they aren't the most common explosive that you can find, and they're not that much of an upgrade over frag grenades, which are already pretty solid, and you're likely just going to be having more of them. Our next grenade is called the Pulse Grenade. The Pulse Grenade is kind of a weird one. This one is specially made to damage robots. So this one does 1 damage on direct hit, and then it does 10 explosive damage, which is pretty low. That's not really that great. The explosive still has a high chance of crippling limbs though, so that can be kind of nice. This has 7 damage per second, 0 for crit chance, 0 for crit damage, costs 24 action points to use, and it weighs half a weight. This also has the unique bonus effect of dealing 200 bonus damage towards robots. That's going to be the main selling point for the pulse grenades. They are really good if you want to be using them against robots. The main problem is there's not a whole lot of robots in Fallout 3. There's no DLCs that prominently have robots in them. And when there are robots around, your frag grenades basically do the same job as these ones do a lot of the time. So there's not really a reason to be carrying these around in my opinion. Usually I would just hold on to a couple of them if I run into sentry bots early on. Then it can certainly help, or gutsy bots early on. But if it's just regular protectrons or robo brains, you should be fine with just the regular frags. So these ones I would put lower. I'd put these ones into D tier, mostly because they're just not good against anything besides robots. And you don't necessarily need a dedicated explosive to deal with the robots when your other explosives can kind of already do that. Our next grenade is the Cryon Nades. These ones you can get from the Mothership Zeta DLC. You can only get these from the aliens, and these ones don't really serve much of a function at all. So these do 1 damage on hit. That's it. They don't actually do any extra damage than that. So they have 1 damage per second. They have 0 crit chance, 0 crit damage, cost 24 action points, and weigh half a weight. These ones freeze enemies for about 3 seconds. And the animation is kind of cool. This also works on you if it goes too close to you, which is kind of funny. The ragdolls are actually pretty funny from this. But as an actual weapon, this one is pretty useless. There's no real reason to be using this at any point. It's not even that great because you can't use this in conjunction with melee or unarmed very easily, and that would be the weapons that would take the most advantage of a target not being able to fight back. But for 3 seconds, it's just not fast enough for you to throw this switch to your weapon. By the time you're hitting them, you may be getting 2 or 3 hits for free, but by that time, then they're getting right back up. But then again, if you're going with an unarmed build, you could just take Paralyzing Palm, knock something down, and have free hits on it pretty much until it's dead, because it's likely not going to be able to get up in time before you actually beat it to death. So there's kind of already a perk that does this, and it does it better. These ones are another D tier. I don't think they're very good. And our very final grenade is the NAA Grenade. This is the only crafted thrown explosive that you have to make. And these ones you have to have a schematic for, just like all of the crafting weapons. For the stats of the NAA Grenade, this one does 500 damage on hit, which is pretty high. That's actually from the explosion, not from the actual hit. The hit is just 1 damage, plus 500 damage, and then this also deals fire damage, which is 2 fire damage over the course of 5 seconds. So the fire damage is kind of nice, but it's not really going to do that much. Mostly the explosion is going to be doing a whole lot of the work from this. This has 275 damage per second, which is really good. Has 0 crit chance, 0 crit damage, 24 action points, half a weight, same as all the other explosives. This one is the strongest explosive out of them. It's just that you do have to make this, although there are some that you can find on workbenches. You can find these and bottle cap mines. Bottle cap mines tend to be a whole lot more common than these. So this also has a unique effect of having 100 rads on it when it goes off. That doesn't really matter, it just pretty much means that you're going to get more radiation if you're not patient and wait for the explosion to kind of die down. If you would like to make the NAA Grenades, you're going to need a couple of, well, items to do this. So first up, you're going to need 1 Nuka-Cola Quantum, which there are a limited amount of Quantums in this game, which makes it so the NAA Grenade is kind of a limited resource. You can still get quite a lot of them, but with this taking so many, and also with Sierra's quest taking so many, taking I think 30, that is quite a lot, so you might not be able to make too many of these. This can be kind of fixed if you have the Nuka Chemist perk, because that makes it so you can convert 10 regular Nuka-Colas into a Quantum, so in that case, it's a functionally unlimited amounts then. That does require you to get a perk, and it's a fairly high-leveled perk at that. This requires 1 tin can, 1 turpentine, and 1 Abraxo cleaner. If you want the schematics, there are 3 of them. One of them is actually found by the end of Sierra's quest, so you have to get 30 Quantums to give her, and then she will give you this. Kind of funny that she takes 30 of the potential items that you need to make NAA Grenades, but you can do that. There is also one that is just found on a cliffside cavern that's near the Yaoguai cave, and you just pick this one up. This one is probably going to be the easiest one to rush since it's always in that area and you don't need to go through a quest like Sierra's. And then the third one that you can get is from the caravan merchant Doc Hoff, where you do need to find him and then buy this from him. It's not going to be super expensive to buy this from him, at least not compared to some of the things that we've talked about in previous guides. It's still going to be pricey, but he does kind of wander from settlement to settlement, so you will need to track him down in order to buy these. That being said, though, these are actually pretty good. These are probably the best thrown explosive, and I would put these up into S tier. The thrown explosives kind of vary quite a bit. Mostly you're just going to be sticking with frag grenades and plasma grenades throughout most of Fallout 3, in my opinion. Maybe get some nuka grenades every once in a while, and maybe use the pulse grenades, at least for a little bit. There was also quite a few other grenades that were supposed to be in the game, but were cut. Like, there was supposed to be a smoke grenade, which I don't know what that was supposed to be used for. There was a signal flare, which again, I would assume that would just be to call in, like, the Brotherhood, maybe? I mean, you kind of get that in like Fallout 4 with the flare gun. And then there was also a Mirelurk bait grenade, which I assume just draws Mirelurks there, and I don't know what part of the quest that would be. Maybe towards the Wasteland Survival Guide? That would be my guess. Tell me your thoughts on the thrown explosives in Fallout 3. How do you enjoy them? And which one is your favorite? I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.